founded Sri Shakti in 1996. So have you noticed any change in opinions of people towards their perception when it comes to female bands?
Things have changed. There are a lot of different bands that have now come up as a result of Stree Shakti's hard work.
When Limca Book of World Records mentioned you as the world's first professional female tabla player, did things change for you in the industry?
Things did not change because of that. Things changed because I stepped up my practice.
The term Pandit was the norm and the term Pandita was not even thought of.
This has been given by the government of India. It's not a title I put on myself. It's wrong to say that the males do not support the female. So many great musicians have taken me in the biggest of the festivals, and it's very nice to work with organizations with like HPCL, which have also supported us in our initiatives.
What advice would you give to young aspiring artists?
Commitment, creativity, and curiosity. This must be the foundation on which you build your work, and never compromise on your values, on your integrity, and ensuring that it's the music that should be the victor, not me.
Welcome to a very special episode of HP Unplugged, where we are celebrating extraordinary women who have broken barriers and redefined possibilities. Today, we are honored to host a trailblazer who transformed the rhythm of Indian classical music and carved a path in a space once dominated by men. I am Trisha, Officer PRCC, and it is my privilege to introduce Pandita Anuradha Pal, the world's first professional female tabla player. A globally acclaimed artist, she has performed across 40 countries at iconic festivals and has collaborated with legends such as Ustad Zakir Hussain, Pandit Ravi Shankar, Pandita Girja Devi, among many others. She has also founded the pioneering all-women band Stree Shakti, along with path-breaking projects and bands like Epic Tabla Stories and Recharge. With over 100 awards to her credit, she continues to inspire audiences and empower young talent through her foundation and academy. It is truly a privilege to have her with us today. A very warm welcome to this exclusive episode of HP Unplugged, ma'am. We are truly honored to have you today with us, and we are really looking forward to the insightful discussion that we are going to have today.
Thank you so much. Namaskar to my HP family and to all the viewers across the world.
So, ma'am, being the world's first professional female tabla player and maestro, it's a historic achievement, but it is just a single first of a many first in your entire music journey, because you have had done a lot of pioneering innovations. So could you please share this journey with us today?
I started performing when I was 9 years old. I started learning when I was 5 or 6, vocal and tabla. But and then I was accompanying different musicians by the time I was 11, 12, 13 years old, performing around the world. And then the Limca book recognized me as the first female professional tabla player. But that was just the start of that curiosity, just the start of that whole beautiful world opening out, where I wanted to explore that while I'm accompanying different musicians, what is that voice of the tabla that I can make, that can sing, that can tell stories, that can connect to a larger audience, that can make them enjoy rhythm not just as a groove, but as an experience that helps them heal. So this whole idea was going on in my mind for several years, because any innovation takes time to first conceptualize and then create and then bring it to fruition. So the first in that process was when I started doing a jugalbandi with myself. So where I would do mother-daughter stories, mother trying to wake up the daughter wants to sleep, mother says go to school, and then she gets angry. And she sends her to school. So this was a story actually from my own life, which I put onto tabla, and it connected with all my college friends on college day. Imagine, when they are normally used to listening to MTV and rock and pop and all that, and here the principal insisted that I perform for them. And it was an eye opener that what I could do with the instrument. That was a first experience for me itself, you know. Then that went on to create. I went on to create Stree Shakti, which is the first all-female band, because inspired by my own struggles, inspired by the challenges I was facing by being a first female professional tabla player and being in a male-dominated field and not coming from a musician family. So 3 negatives against me. And I wanted in my own way to get together other girls, other women, deserving artists, talent, to create a band that would, by its diversity and by the fact that it was so fresh, give opportunity to many musicians. When I say opportunity, I mean that usually most bands consist of the same set of members, they are fixed. But my idea in Stree Shakti has always been about, you know, promoting the local talent, about bringing in more women artists and giving more opportunity, and literally, you know, vocal for local in that sense. Like I would go to Manipur and I would take a Manipuri dancer to play along with Sri Shakti, or I would go to Aurangabad and I would take a dholki player from there to play with Sri Shakti. It's challenging, you know, when you're working with new people, you have to understand them. It takes time for them to align to what you're thinking. But I was willing to go that extra mile because I wanted that benefit to reach maximum women artists, and also for the inspiration to thereby sort of, you know, have a ripple effect for women across other fields. Because when they see that girls are doing well in one field, it's an inspiration for girls in any other allied field as well. And not only girls, young boys would come up to me and say, आपकी वजह से हमको ये inspiration आया कि हम ये कर सकते हैं. So I think it's very important to not only create opportunity for yourself, but to empower others to be able to recognize their own talent. And that's what Stree Shakti gave opportunity to over 100 women artists over the years. So it's now it's what, 27 years of performing together. But I have some core members, but some members keep you know, getting added and according to the occasions and the event where it is. So that was another thing. Then of course, Tabla Singh stories led to epic Tabla stories, which was a part of my desire to bring in the Indian knowledge systems, the ancient Indian wisdom, the timeless wisdom of the Panchatantra, of the Ramayana, of Krishna's Leelas, the story, or rather the learnings behind the stories. Because very often we are caught with the story, but we forget the learning behind the story, the real purpose or the moral building that these stories actually are supposed to create, the character building, right? So अभी जैसे हम पुरुषोत्तम श्री राम बोलते हैं तो उनको पुरुषोत्तम क्यों कहते हैं, right? There is character, there is integrity that he displays despite in that kind of a situation. So that's how the epic Tabla stories, which is the first audio-visual experience of you know, where the song, instruments and the tabla becomes a narrator. So that's where it shifted a role from just being an accompanying instrument to becoming a narrator, to becoming a sort of a chief protagonist in a story where it is like the central character and around which who tells the stories of other characters through percussion. So for example, in my epic Tabla stories, I play different percussion instruments. Even in Navdurga, when I present Navdurga, I present the different characters. Say a Ravan would be presented on one other instrument, or the dialogue between Hanuman and Sri Ram would be presented in a different way. So that kind of conversation in rhythm and narrating the entire Ramayana from the Sita Swayamvar to all these stories and the learnings and the experiences, all that on tabla being the central narrator. And that's where it is also one of the first, right? And of course, Recharge is another band of mine where I combined a fusion, you know, it's a fusion of Indian classical with jazz, African, Latin music, as well as Indian folk music. So again, it was all these experiences, or rather all these experiments, or all these innovations, as you call it, are part of my journey to remain curious, to remain humble, to remain rooted to my basic desire to explore more what I can do with my instrument, and to get the tabla its respect beyond what it has got. It's one of the most popular instruments in the world. It's played with every kind of music. But there are still organizations that would never want to keep a tabla solo. There are still organizers who will say, tabla nahi, hum log gana sunenge. So why that mindset? Why that opposition? When the rest of the world is celebrating this instrument, why are you not willing to give it its little place in the sun, right? As an instrument that can tell a story. So which is why I set out to do this as Tabla Sings Stories. And another first has been the healing tabla experience, which I created. Again, part of, when I found that tabla was actually, I went through certain things in my life when I needed to heal, right? And I found that tabla was actually helping me heal, was actually helping me get over what were hugely difficult times. And because of that, I wanted to share that healing that I got an idea about how to do, the ancient Indian rhythms, or how to align the chakras through tabla, through the ancient rhythms, and through the sacred grooves, how to harmonize the self, how to calm yourself, to focus, to realign yourself, to reharmonize yourself, and to create stillness so that you can achieve your potential. So that is what healing tabla experience does.
So ma'am, as you said, through your various innovations, you have expanded the horizons of tabla. Now in this industry, the term Pandit was the norm and the term Pandita was not even thought of. So we wanted to know what drove you towards tabla so much so that you were ready to face all of the challenges that came your way. And how did your routine, your riyaz, helped you reach the position that you are in today?
The title Pandita is not given by me. The Government of India and the Ministry of Culture, ICCR, and the Prasar Bharati, the All India Radio, they gave me the title of top graded Vidushi. Now Vidushi means somebody who's Vidwan, and the Pandita is exactly the meaning of, that's what it means, because the word Pandit is commonly known. Pandita, somehow women artists have not received the kind of respect that they deserve, and which is why that name is not so common. But if a man can be called Pandit, why can't a woman be called Pandita? If she deserves it, she should be given the same respect, right? So it's part of that same, I should say, mentality, and perhaps that's why you have not heard of that. But this has been given by the Government of India. It's not a title I put on myself.
Yes, ma'am. So you spoke about your innovation band, which was Sri Shakti. So at that point of time, it was not only a musical innovation, but also a very bold social statement. So what was the behind the scenes journey of bringing that idea to execution to reality?
Stree Shakti was born out of my own struggles. It was born out of the pain that I was going through of being rejected, not coming from a musician family, of not getting my due. For example, I may be called to perform, but if I played well, the artist may not like it and may not call me next time. If my whatever was promised may not be paid to me. Why? You don't need to run a house, so it's okay if I pay you less. Now that kind of a strange comment was coming my way. And of course, I was running my house. I was independent from the time I was 9 years old. And that's when I decided that I'm not going to be relying on my parents' money for my work. My parents gave me all the freedom, all the encouragement, all the support in the world. And it's only thanks to them that I could navigate my way in this very difficult field. And of course, because the blessings of my gurus and all the veteran musicians that I played with, all the great masters who believed in my talent. So there were some people who were the naysayers, but there were many musicians, and I should say many male musicians particularly, because it's wrong to say that the males do not support the female. I do not agree with that. I believe that there are always some black sheep, but to make a generalized statement may not be fair. I personally have seen how much so many great musicians have taken me in the biggest of the festivals, from Pandit Hariprasad Chaurasiya to Shiv Kumar Sharma ji to Shahid Parvez ji to all these great masters, Ustad Zakir Hussain, Ustad Allah Rakha Khan Sahab, all of them taking me to perform in great festivals, to perform with them, gave me that fillip. But Stree Shakti still was a question of passing on. While I was getting a little bit opportunity, it was still not fair. Okay, but I wanted that when we unite and I make a platform that other women can also benefit from. So I wanted that it should be something where there should be change on the systemic level, at the grassroots level. Not just that I get opportunities, but other women, other girls also get opportunity to perform. So which is why I created Stree Shakti, and in '96, and it's the first all-female Hindustani Carnatic combination band. And I wanted it to be a classical band. I've of course worked with jazz in it. I've sometimes put jazz, I've sometimes put flamenco. So I've done all these kind of combinations. But my idea was that we promote India, we promote Indian classical music and folk music, and we promote what is great about our culture. And I have never aped anything of the West, because I truly believe that our Indian civilization is the richest. So that was really the reason for Stree Shakti to be created. And I'm very happy that over 100 women artists have benefited and have been empowered through Stree Shakti. And many more youth have felt empowered and encouraged, inspired by this. So I'm happy that this initiative, though it was very difficult because there were so many naysayers, there were so many people who didn't want to support Stree Shakti, who still believe that वो तो लड़कियों का band है. So they will dismiss it for the gender. But I only look at the glass being half full rather than half empty, and keep going on in my efforts. And I always believe कि आप जब कोई चीज़ को decide करते हैं और करना ही है, तो भगवान आपको रास्ता दिखाता है.
So ma'am, you founded Stree Shakti in 1996 and today is 2026. So almost 30 years have passed. So have you noticed any change in opinions of people towards their perception when it comes to female bands?
Things have changed. There are a lot of different bands that have now come up as a result of Stree Shakti's hard work, and because we performed in the best of the festivals across the world, we continue to perform. For example, we performed in a WOMAD festival in '99, and rock star Sting came on the stage, and he was actually going to perform right after us. But so we were a little apprehensive, is the crowd going to accept us, because we are playing Indian classical and he's a rock star. So, but people loved it, and they shouted, "We want more, we want more," so many encores. And then he came on the stage and he called us the Indian Spice Girls, and he requested us to play some more, which we did. And we are performing in so many different festivals, like in the US, in India, in Africa, and the Far East, and UK, and all over England. We did a lot of concerts, all over Europe. And the audiences are very open, very appreciative of Stree Shakti. And I think what it does is that it makes people feel very happy, especially women, because they feel that here are people doing what we couldn't do. Somewhere they see that connect, and somewhere all these women who come and see us, and then they come crying to me afterwards and say, "I heard you, I felt like I was achieving a goal when you were performing on stage. So that's that connection with the audience and that engagement with each member of the audience. That is what makes it very special for me as an artist. And I try very hard to engage with the audience because I think everybody comes from a diverse background, but music unites everybody, right? But yes, there are still organizers who may not want to support an all-women band. There are still organizers who will not want to give a tabla solo an opportunity to perform in their festivals. So there are still challenges, but that's where I feel that we need to have more women groups come together, more organizations, more companies need to support. And my foundation, Anuradha Pal Cultural Foundation, has been also doing a lot of work to bring about empowerment of women through the awards that we institute, through the various initiatives that we do to help women and girls come up. So I'm trying in my own way to not only through music, but also in other fields, help them come up. So, but yes, it's an ongoing process. But the good part is when people come to me afterwards and when I see that those women artists who were not getting opportunity earlier or not even being recognized by their own family members are today so respected, are today performing across the world. And when they give me that credit and they say, thanks to you, we were able to achieve this, it's not thanks to me, it's their hard work, it's their effort. It's just that this Stree Shakti united them and it gave them that platform which they needed so much at that time. And of course, it's their talent which has taken them places.
That is so inspiring to hear, ma'am. So apart from Stree Shakti, you have also founded a band which is called Recharge. Could you please tell us about it?
I was invited to teach at the New England Conservatory in Boston, which is one of the top music schools. And that experience put me in touch with a lot of African, Latin, jazz musicians. Staying in Boston, reading, listening to jazz music every day, playing concerts with different jazz musicians, and learning about their music enriched me greatly. And I decided to put some of those elements into a band called Recharge. And the name Recharge actually came about because when we were performing after the concert, I just started performing and there was no name of the band at that time. And some audience members came to me after the concert, कि मैम हम तो recharge हो गए, पूरा एकदम fresh लग रहा है आज. So then I said, wow, this is a nice name, you know. And then we came up with an album called Get Recharged. So we debuted at the world famous Woodstock Festival, where we performed for 400,000 fans. And it was India's only representation in such a big festival. And you'd be very proud to know that the President of India honored me as the First Ladies Award for my performing in two of the biggest festivals in the world, WOMAD for 150,000 fans and Woodstock for 400,000 fans. So this was a great moment for recognition of Indian music and culture across the world, because this is not me who's achieving it, it's India who's achieving it. It's India's culture, it's India's music that's going across the world.
That's really great to hear, ma'am. And you spoke that when you were coming in this industry, you were supported by a lot of male counterparts in the industry. So you have shared jugalbandis, you have shared stages with your gurus, Ustad Allah Raka Khan Sahab and Ustad Zakir Hussain Sahab. Could you please tell me some of the memorable moments that you have shared with them?
I was 15 years old when I first played with Ustad Zakir Hussain, and it was memorable for many, many reasons. For what I learned, for the kind of quick-wittedness that I needed to display, for the fact that he suddenly threw so many surprises on the stage before the program, and there's a whole long story to that whole experience. The thing is that that taught me how to be ready with it, how to be ready for just about everything, and which as a tabla player, as an accompanist, you got to be able to get under the skin of the artist and many unsaid expectations many things that are not discussed, that okay, we will musically do this. It is just assumed that you will flow along and find your way. I think a lot of the training I received off and on stage, what they taught me was not just music, but the philosophy of music, the respect, the kind of love, the reverence you need to have for your instrument, and the kind of openness. Like for example, I play with Carnatic music, with jazz, with African, but I'm thoroughly rooted in my Indian classical music, because the domain knowledge, when the domain knowledge is strong, you can actually experiment with other genres. And which is why I have always lived my life on my parents. My father was Devendra Pal. He was a very great doyen of the pharmaceutical industry. He had suffered a lot. His family was a survivor of the partition, and he was just 2-3 years old when he came to India with nothing, started all his own, and father had been killed in the war. So his story of sleeping under on the street lights, appearing and getting scholarships and studying and becoming the youngest production manager at the age of 23, and that too without any support, because his father had passed away long before, and then he had nobody in the industry. So that was one great inspiration also for me, that okay, I can possibly find some foothold here. My mother, Ila Pal, was a well-known painter and a writer, and she gave me that, the zest for life that an artist must experience when you have ecstasy and agony both in the same moment, and how to deal with being an artist, and how to enjoy that process of creation, how to be continuously curious, humble, rooted. And so these are the very many things that I learned from my gurus, my parents, even my husband. So I think I have taken inspiration from everywhere, and used the intelligent environment I got at home, which was the science and the arts coming together to create. I think that also inspired me to do a lot of innovations, because I knew my field is going to be very hard for me, and it genuinely has been very difficult. A lot of people think that, oh, she has such a big name, she, things are all set, because the grass is always greener on the other side. But when you are continuously looking for more, and you are not, and you remain humble and rooted, that's when you realize there's so much more to life that you've not achieved.
So ma'am, as you spoke, you had to face a lot of struggles in the industry. So when in the year 1991, when Limca Book of World Records mentioned you as the world's first professional female tabla player, did things change for you in the industry?
Things did not change because of that. Things changed because I stepped up my practice. I stepped up my efforts. I followed 3 C's and 3 D's in my career. Something that's a rule book that I made for myself. The 3 D's literally were dedication, discipline, and domain knowledge, right? And for that, the dedication meant practicing long hours, playing with different musicians, going every day, working with different genres, listening to a lot of music. So literally no holidays, no cheat days, no time with friends, no time for socialization, a complete focus on work and study and all that. So that was discipline, and building a domain knowledge where 6 gharanas I wanted to learn, I wanted to practice in such a way that I could make my hand malleable to play with different people, with different genres, styles, etc., and play 6 gharanas of tabla. So that meant a lot of training, a lot of practice, and a lot of studied approach, right? It's not just आप रियाज करो 10 घंटा, आप कितना दिमाग लगा के करते हो वो important है. आप भले 1 घंटा करो लेकिन with full focus आप करो. So that was important. And then of course along with that was the commitment. That commitment meant that no matter what situation I am in, no matter what problem I am going through, I will not break a commitment. This was a promise I made to myself way back, because there was always a dismissive thing कि अरे उसकी शादी हो जाएगी तो वो तबला छोड़ देगी, ये होगा तो वो ख़त्म हो जाएगा. So that kind of a approach of not taking me seriously was there. So I had to take myself very, very much difficult with myself, train myself in the most possible maximum way, make life difficult for myself, like carry 20 kilos of weight in each hand, travel in a bus, in a ST bus, just to toughen myself. It wasn't because of any other reason. It wasn't that I couldn't afford a flight ticket, but it was just I wanted to toughen myself for the road ahead. So that was my own journey, my own discipline. Then, of course, so with the commitment and creativity and a curiosity, right? So these were the 3 C's and the 3 D's that I made as a dictum for my life. And I said, no matter what situation I am in, I will remember this. No matter how much I achieve in life, I will remember this.
So speaking about the 3 C's in your life, I wanted to ask you about the 4th C, which is the process of curation. So what does your internal creative process look like when you are composing melodies? Because you have composed them for various films such as M.F. Hussein's critically acclaimed Gajagamini. You have also composed melody for Dior's live fashion show, which was in 2023, and it reached 13 million viewers. And all of these were your compositions. So could you please tell us about your creative process?
When I play the tabla, I also trained myself as a percussionist. So for example, in my band's Recharge is when I started playing a lot of African, Latin, percussion and all that. And I composed an album called Get Recharged and Recharge Plus, both that went on to become the #1 fusion hits albums in that, in their years. And of course, many other albums like Passion and a spiritual album called, Nirvana and all that. When I play percussion, I'm thinking rhythm. I'm thinking about how to bring out the tonality of the instrument, but make it tell a story. But when I'm composing, I am looking at how melody and rhythm come together to complete that story, right? So I have to wear different hats. When I'm curating, for example, I also have the Suror Saz is my music label under which I released a lot of albums and music videos. Even, for example, Dancing Rain, which is a thing that we released in COVID time. 12 artists from across the world, and in COVID we released the video as well as the music, right? And Tal Tiranga or Bharat Vandan, both on Vande Mataram of India, right? Celebrating Vande Mataram. So all these albums and these videos that I did, I got into music production, even video, production, and how to understand that. So again, curiosity has been something which, learning more about fields has been a strength. But when you're coming to curation, you are looking at it from an editor perspective. It's a different hat you're wearing. And there you have to think, understand. So for example, when I did it for Dior, their ask was about, it was a different experience because here I'm playing with live fashion. There's a live walkway, models are on this beautiful Gateway of India setup and grand stage created by Dior and all that. And to curate for them was a completely different experience because here I'm doing it for a very, very international audience. And for a fashion show happening live with first time live Indian classical music with a live fashion show. So that was the first time. So very challenging, but very satisfying because not only the tabla got so much of appreciation, but even the music was so appreciated and got 13 million plus views when I composed for Dior's Fall 23 show.
And could you please tell us about the Gajagamini?
So Gajagamini is the first film where the tabla and voice only has been used and played by one single artist, that's me, across the entire film, and where it conveys the emotions of the film, right? And that in a sense was what was really appreciated by MF Hussain Saab himself, he gave me the biggest compliment saying that your music completed the images that I could not in my frames, right? So I think when a filmmaker and a great painter like him says that, it was behind that was a lot of study of each minute second, every millisecond. How can I utilize that to communicate the story of the film, right? Through the tabla and voice composed by me. And this was what was very appreciated in the Cannes Film Festival. Also, A.R. Rahman Saab, in fact, invited me to record for his film Gandhi Speaks, which is also a silent film, where I've played the tabla and also done the background score. Also inspired by the same MF Hussain Saab's experiment, and which went on to be the first film to ever do this. And so I think when I compose and I curate, there's a double hat or a triple hat that I'm wearing, because I have to be very, very sure of when to come in, when to go out, who to bring in, who to take out, and how the whole thing comes together with the main idea of the event. Similarly, when we did Kautilya, for example, which got 14 million plus views, it's, I think the vision of bringing classical music and the Baithak style of classical music and bringing it out was a brilliant idea by Spotify. And I was also the face of Spotify, and where they launched so much of music, and fortunately the music is doing very well.
So ma'am, you have mentored and empowered a lot of young artists through your academy as well as your foundation. Could you please tell us about that?
I started the Academy of Percussion and Classical Arts because I wanted to share the beauty of Indian classical music with the world at large. This journey actually started in 2004, when I first created the first instructional video training DVDs of tabla, so as to make learning of Indian classical music accessible to people across geographies at their time and space, right? And the DVDs went on to become absolute, they were duplicated to the extent, I mean, they were like so successful that they were black marketed also. But that apart, we also done a lot of stuff to release albums, to release music, and to mentor young students in tabla, percussion, and also to provide them opportunities of performances, right? Because every artist needs a little support. And so we provide them at our academy opportunities to perform, to empower themselves through different interactions that they have with other great artists, etc. My foundation was created around COVID because of the kind of problems that were happening with the marginalized artists, folk artists, and classical, and the orchestra musicians suffering so much, and plus a lot of the women and children in the villages that were suffering, especially after the second wave of COVID. So that's where our foundation went and did a lot of work of providing grassroots support, food grains and monthly ration and everything to these women and children across 20 states of India. But we also created positive weekends and workshops of wellness that we did for corporates, particularly because the kind of stressful lives that corporates lead or children lead, they need to have some way to channelize the healing power or the therapeutic power of music into helping them deal with this better. Because music teaches you teamwork, it teaches you how to be happy, it teaches you how to be one, positive society. Also during COVID, I did a program called Beat the Blues, which was for 64 days, passing on the healing to people across the world. And thousands of people would come online every day at 8 o'clock to listen to that program. So these were some of these initiatives, Atmanirbhar Festival, Urja Festival, a lot of things like that. But post-COVID also we've done a lot of stuff. We continue to do that as a foundation. And it's very nice to work with organizations with like HPCL, which have also supported us in our initiatives. And I'm very happy to know about Dhwani, because I think, music unites, and the more teamwork and more collaboration we have in society, more happy we'll be with shared values.
And ma'am, lastly, what advice would you give to young aspiring artists?
I think it's really important to commit yourself completely to an art, to whatever you do. And it's not only for artists, it's for every professional. Commitment, creativity, and curiosity. This must be the foundation on which you build your work, you build your ethics, you build your talent. And never compromise on your values, on your integrity, because we don't want quick gains at the cost of ethics, right? And secondly, very important is to have a very, very strong domain knowledge. So I think knowing your foundations and working on that continuously, it's like you're watering the roots of a tree. You can keep taking out the fruits of the tree, but if the foundation is weak, then somewhere that's going to suffer. So you need to keep watering the roots. Secondly, so that's as far as the domain, discipline, and dedication. These must be there. And one must make sure that no matter what, you do your work with sincerity, with a sense of collaboration. While you want individuality, you must work as a team. You must work for the success of that project, not for your individual milestones. And I think that's the thing that in whatever collaborations I have done in my life have been all about, whether it's Stree Shakti or whether it's Recharge or whether it's the collaborations I've done with, jazz or African or Indian musicians. It's always been about understanding the other person, putting the other person's requirements or sensitivities before my own, and ensuring that it's the music that should be the victor, not me. It's like, when a team plays, the team has to win, not an individual player. So I think that's important, that we become leaders at the same time work as a team and with collaboration, and have values that we can, work with integrity and respect for each other, and let your work do the talking. I have gone through a lot of struggle, and the only thing that I've always believed in, your work must do the talking. The moment your work is good, you will get work, lot more work. So let your work be the best and leave the rest to God.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking out time for doing this exclusive interview with us today. We are truly honored to have you today with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you, and my warm, warm respects to the entire HP family for this wonderful initiatives.
Thank you, ma'am, for so graciously sharing your inspiring journey and insights with us today. Your extraordinary contribution to music, your pioneering spirit, and your dedication to empowering others through the art of rhythm are truly remarkable. It has been an honor and a privilege for all of us to hear from you. To our viewers, thank you for joining us for this special episode of HP Unplugged. We look forward to bringing you many more inspiring conversations as we continue to celebrate the journeys of exceptional women who are breaking barriers and redefining possibilities. Until next time.